This cute caterpillar can kill you. This frog poison you. And this ant sting you so hard that you will remember this pain forever. So, if you ever encounter an animal from my selection today, run and don't look back. And if you watch the video to the end, you will definitely be armed to the teeth, especially at the beach. Why? You'll find out. Enjoy watching. Poisonous bird. When I was researching materials for this video, I fully understood that my selection would include a variety of insects, snakes, and underwater creatures. And imagine my surprise when I found information on a poisonous little bird on the internet. Usually, birds are safe, but not this time. The hooded pitahui, or two-color pitahui. That's the name of the first representative in my selection. It's a medium-sized bird, or rather a whole group of birds, as there are 8 species of hooded pitahui, and they all inhabit the territories of Indonesia and New Guinea, far from civilization, at a high altitude, more than 1 mile above sea level. Take a look at how it looks. Bright plumage typical of jungles, and a pretty face. In general, a bird like any other. Nothing surprising. This same opinion was shared by scientists until 1992, when they tasted the poison of this cutie. Yes, you heard right. They tasted it. No, nobody licked the bird. It happened a little differently. Jack Dumbacher, a well-known Chicago biologist, ornithologist, and just a great guy, once, while walking in the jungle, noticed a hooded pitahui in his trap and decided to release it, since it didn't pose much interest to him. The bird didn't really like being locked up, so before escaping, it scratched the scientist's hand. For some reason, he lost his scientific vigilance and immediately licked the scratch. Isn't that foolish? Why lick scratches left by someone unknown? There's antiseptic after all. I always carry it with me after COVID. Anyway, our great guy Jack Dumbacher got away with just a slight fright. His lips and tongue went numb, but the scientist didn't suffer any serious health consequences. Although, jumping ahead, he could have. But he became the hero of this story and became famous thanks to this discovery. In general, it turned out that this bird has a very strong poison in its feathers and innards, called batrachotoxin. Whew, what a name! Hooded pitahui gets this toxin from its food. It prefers to feast on special beetles, called coracine beetles, which are very poisonous. The bird has long developed immunity to these toxins, but animals and humans have not. And if a high concentration of batrachotoxin gets into your body, it can lead to death in just a few minutes, or completely paralyze you. In general, be careful next time you go for a walk in the jungle. Tree climber. If you weren't impressed by the previous representative of my selection, here's another one for you. Small, no, not just small, but literally tiny colorful frog. This little one and the two-color pitahui are comrades in arms. Doubt it? I'll prove it to you now. Tree climbers, that's what these frogs are called, inhabit forests from Central America to southern Brazil. And most often, they can be seen on trees. There they live, eat, look for partners, go to discos. Well, in general, they do everything. Usually at a height of no more than 15 feet. Why? I don't know. Tree climbers have a unique poison, but they don't generate it themselves. Everything happens here just like with the hooded pitahui. Colorful frogs just catch all sorts of ants, termites, ticks, and many-legged creatures. And often, they do it indiscriminately, and therefore, they eat a lot of different poisonous substances. For the frogs themselves, this cocktail is safe. They have long developed immunity to it. But for predators wanting to feast on a tree climber, this meal can be their last. Moreover, the poison is not inside the frog, but directly on the skin, so touching it is not recommended either. You probably won't die if you do, but it certainly won't be pleasant. By the way, an interesting fact. The indigenous peoples of South and Central America once learned about the unusual properties of this little frog and started using its poison to make poisonous darts. They did this for centuries. Also interestingly, many people prefer to keep tree climbers at home. In principle, it's a cute creature. I would have one myself. But isn't it poisonous? Why expose myself to danger? It turns out, no. It all depends on the diet. So, if you feed this frog with non-poisonous bugs, then it will stop producing toxins. But for some reason, many officials in various countries have never heard of this and have put the little frog on the list of prohibited amphibians for breeding. Which is very sad actually, because the natural habitat of tree climbers is gradually being destroyed by humans. Deforestation, environmental pollution, other anthropogenic factors, there's a risk of the tree climber disappearing completely in the future. Poison frog. It's widely known that bright equals poisonous. Tree climbers and pitahuis confirm that. But it's not necessary to flaunt all the colors of the rainbow to possess powerful toxins. And the poison frog proves it perfectly. Imagine you are walking through the forest, and alongside the beautiful singing of birds, you hear strange murmuring sound coming right from the bottom of a stream. In my opinion, it's even a bit creepy. And it gets even scarier when you see the source of these sounds and know a thing or two about it. It's the red-bellied poison frog. At first glance, an ordinary frog, unremarkable, gray, inconspicuous. But if you pick it up, it will immediately flip over and reveal its bright multicolored belly. It's covered with a dangerous toxin, batrachotoxin. It's unlikely to kill you, but strong irritation of the mucous membranes, chills, and headaches are guaranteed. In that case, I don't recommend touching anything until you're sure it's a well-known creature that you know everything about. Invisible scorpion. Alright, enough about frogs already. Here's a scorpion for you. I don't think anyone among you would even think of touching a scorpion. Personally, none of them inspire any trust in me. Their sting, those pincers, no way. But if you're still a fan of thrills, often touch things that an average person definitely won't touch, then let me warn you. All scorpions are venomous. Yes, not all of them are dangerous to humans. Only 50 species are considered dangerous. 25 are deadly. But isn't that enough? And there's also the Death Stalker, the most deadly scorpion on the planet. Let me tell you more about it. Its other name is the Yellow Palestinian. It's not a random name. This scorpion is indeed yellow, which is quite beneficial for it, because it inhabits desert regions of Africa and the Middle East. In the sand, it's like an invisible creature. As for the nickname Killer, it's also not to be doubted. If you accidentally come across one while walking in the desert, a vivid experience of pain is guaranteed. This scorpion attacks in literally split seconds, releasing a powerful cocktail of neurotoxins. The sting leads to muscle spasms, central nervous system failures, difficulty breathing, paralysis, and ultimately death. Antivenom exists, but it's like poison itself, because it needs to be administered in huge quantities, and this can cause severe complications. So don't risk your life. Just look at the scorpion from afar if you're so interested. But approaching it, let alone touching it, definitely not necessary. It's bite like a bullet. There's also a record holder among ants. Somewhere in the tropical forests lives such an unusual representative of this family. It's distinguished by powerful pincers around its mouth. It's the bullet ant. And it rightfully earned its name. If you happen to encounter this seemingly harmless creature, sharp pain for about a day is unavoidable. Its bite, accompanied by powerful venom and sting, is compared to being hit by a rubber bullet. That's how painful it is. Nobody has ever shot at me, but I'm sure it's true. And of course, no one will voluntarily approach this ant. That's what I thought until I learned about one awful ritual. Some Brazilian tribes have a strange initiation rite for boys into adulthood. They weave something like gloves from large leaves, and then they weave ants attached to a string into them. And imagine, a teenage boy needs to put his hands into these gloves and keep them there for a whole 10 minutes. And if he can't, he's not mature. The least harm from this completely inhumane ritual is numbness of the hands for several days and loss of sensitivity. The worst outcome is death, probably from shock. Well, in these tribes, it's customary. If you can't pass the rite, you can't be part of the tribe. That's how the higher powers ordained. Blister Beetle. Are you familiar with this beetle? If you're a resident of Eurasia, North Africa, or North America, then most likely yes, because the soldier beetle is quite common in these regions. And it also has a bright crimson color that definitely couldn't go unnoticed. But don't be afraid, this insect is not venomous, and it doesn't even bite. You can safely pick it up if you want. But this one, very similar beetle, is better to avoid. It's not a soldier beetle at all, but a real blister beetle. It's widespread in the same regions, but in their southern part. And if you might not have noticed the soldier beetle, an encounter with this one will definitely not go unnoticed. It has a poison called cantharidin in its blood. In a stressful state, the blister beetle can produce large amounts of such poison. And if you become the source of that stress, you'll undoubtedly get a skin burn in the form of a watery blister. And if this beetle accidentally gets into your food, you'll get burning of the mucous membranes, sores in the mouth, and a swollen tongue, and then nausea, vomiting, and all the accompanying symptoms. Sounds unpleasant, doesn't it? Not a fan of beetles, are you? Among beetles and ants, there are many dangerous ones. Why would you want to touch them? Just steer clear and you'll be happy. For example, the bombardier beetle, a cute insect with a small head and a large body. It looks harmless and even a bit pitiful, as bombardier beetles can't fly at all. But don't rush to feel sorry for it. Well, don't pat it on the head like a kitten, because if you disturb the bombardier beetle, it will release an extremely corrosive liquid that, when it touches your skin, will cause a burn similar to a chemical one. Your skin will turn red, blisters will appear, and the wounds will take a long time and be very difficult to heal. Or take ants, for instance. Any type of ant. They seem quite unremarkable, but incredibly venomous. They all have acid in their abdomen, which causes burns. And if you are allergic, vomiting, nausea, dizziness, and sometimes death to anaphylactic shock. You might think, oh, that's far away, probably all in Australia or Africa. No, venomous ants of various species inhabit Eurasia, America, and even New Zealand. And then there's the velvet ant, lives in Eurasia. Its sting feels like being prickled by a sharp object, and at the sight of this prick, a swelling or bump may appear, which can last for a whole month. Interestingly, not only the adult individual stings, but also the larva. Beauty, a terrifying force. There are other dangerous larvae, caterpillars. For example, the Lenomia caterpillar. It looks quite unusual. Strange multicolored spikes protrude from it in all directions. With these, it skillfully camouflages itself as tree bark. And if someone accidentally touches this pseudo bark, they'll be unpleasantly surprised, because shortly afterward, they will start feeling the first symptoms of poisoning. And these symptoms are far from typical. The toxin contained in the spikes of Lenomia affects blood clotting and the condition of blood vessels, making them incredibly fragile. So, a person stung by this caterpillar can expect brain hemorrhages, internal bleeding, kidney failure, coma, or even death. Brazilian scientists have already developed an antidote, but Lenomia still kills dozens of people every year. Because no one pays attention to the stings of a small caterpillar. Or rather, not stings but stabs. And when the first symptoms appear, it's already too late. So stay away from this overseas thing. Forewarned is forearmed. By the way, it's a caterpillar, right? So it turns into a butterfly? Is the butterfly also poisonous? No, the Io moth caterpillar is completely harmless. And cute too. Some people even compare it to a nicely outlined pair of lips. Look for yourself. I think it's quite similar. Cones, but not road ones. Do you like collecting seashells on the beach? I really love it. It's been with me since childhood. But after the information I learned while gathering material for this video, I think I'll be more cautious. It turns out there are cone snails that disguise themselves as ordinary empty shells. but in reality, they possess incredibly toxic venom capable of killing a person in a couple of minutes. Just imagine, you pick up an attractive shell, turn it in your hands to admire the beauty of the patterns, and suddenly get a powerful bite, comparable to a wasp or bee sting. If you are lucky, you've encountered not a very venomous cone snail. You'll just experience unpleasant burning and mild fright. But if you are the unlucky owner of a large cone of a particular species, trouble is inevitable. Blurred vision, difficulty breathing, swelling, vomiting, and eventually death awaits you. And the second name for this poisonous cone is cigarette. Do you know why? Because death comes faster than you can smoke a cigarette. I mean literally in a couple of minutes. Horrible, isn't it? And there is no antidote. The only thing to do is to immediately make an incision and release blood from the bite site. That's what the indigenous people of the Pacific Islands do. There's simply no other effective way. Today, I've only told you about a small part of such creatures. At least one was a marine inhabitant in this selection, although in reality, dozens of fish, corals, starfish, and other creatures fall under the principle of don't touch or you'll die. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like. That way, I'll understand that you are interested in this topic and release a second part. Thanks for watching.